Detroit Tigers have lost 12 of their last 13 games since
Wow.
July 9th. They are 1-12 in that span. Obviously, they have the worst score. They score the least. They have scored the least amount of runs in that stretch in the MLB, and that's the worst record in that run in the MLB. They had the best record in baseball for quite some time going into the All-Star break. They're still, I believe, it's 15 games over 500. So, this might just be water finding this level. We talked about the Tigers briefly on here before, and, I was hyping them up. I was just saying that there's a bunch of young guys. The thing now about the Tigers, when it's bad, things look a little different. I put up a post. I put up a post on social media, and I said that the Tigers don't suck. They don't suck now, but they are not better than the Blue Jays. They're playing the Blue Jays right now. The Blue Jays are 3-0. They got another game against the Blue Jays today. The Blue Jays they'll probably go 0-4 against the Blue Jays. And I just said the Tigers don't suck. They're just not better than the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays right now look like they're going to be the AL pennant winners this year, the way they're playing. And if you look at the structure of the Blue Jays team, I'm not a huge baseball fan. I'm a fringe baseball fan. And just like anybody who's a fringe fan of any sport, we know stars on teams. We don't know the ins and outs of every player in the league, but we can look at a team and be like, oh, I know that guy, or oh, I've heard of that guy before. And
Right.
if you look at the Blue Jays, if you're an old head, if you're an older head like you remember Vlad Guerrero, and now his son plays in the league, Vlad Guerrero Jr. And that's their star. They just paid that guy. He got a new contract this offseason, and he's a star. They got a young guy, Bo Bichette. He's a star. He's a young prospect that everybody coveted, and he's come into the league, and he's hit the ground running. And I was watching it yesterday. I learned a new guy, but I can't even tell you his name, but I know he's a power hitter. But that being said, when you look at the Tigers, you ask me, why are they so good? And the Tigers, Riley Green is probably the best offensive player on the Tigers right now. But when I look at Riley Green, he's not your typical star. He's not. If you're a baseball fan and you remember when the Tigers were good, a decade ago, we had Ian Kinsler on the team. Ian Kinsler was a great second baseman, a great hitter. He was a great part of this team. But Ian Kinsler wasn't the star of the team. He was just like he was that guy. You knew when Ian Kinsler came to the plate that he was going to have a professional at bat, and he would be a great piece on any championship team. But I wouldn't build my team around Ian Kinsler. And that's kind of what the Tigers have done, is they're building their team around good to good. They're building their team around a lot of good players, but they don't have a guy who just sets the whole thing into motion. Kerry Carpenter is probably their best hitter, and he's been hurt. So he's supposed to be coming back soon. So hopefully when he comes back, they start putting up more runs again. You start to see more home runs. But all that being said, Tarik Skubal was on the mound yesterday, and if there was anything that a Detroit Tigers fan could count on, was that the Tigers will win a Tarik Skubal start. And he went out there and he gave you 6 innings of shutout baseball, and took it to the 7th. You turned to the bullpen, and as soon as the bullpen came in, man, the Blue Jays' eyes lit up, and it went from 0 runs in the 6th to 6-1 final score. So all that being said, Tarik Skubal still doesn't have a contract. You still got him for 2 years. This team is either in a terrible slump or this might be an indication that maybe this team is not built to win a World Series. And if that's the case, once again, I ask the question: is it time to trade Tarik Skubal?
No, I don't think it's time to trade Tears. I don't think it's time to make that trade yet, man. I used to play baseball, man, and uh, it's from time to time, man. Baseball is a long season. I want to say baseball is the longest season out of any sport. And you're gonna go through your slumps, man. I mean, it happens in baseball. When I played baseball, man, I was a pretty good power hitter, man. I was a pretty good power. If I got a hold of the ball, man, you would never see that ball again. I knock the stuffing out that ball. But I had my moments through the season where I couldn't touch the ball, man. I don't know what it was. No matter what I did, I tried to change it up, and I just could not hit the ball, man. And the more I thought about it, the more I got in my head about it, the worse I got at it. And I don't know what would happen, but eventually the clouds will clear up, the sun will come out, and I was able to hit again. And I think the same thing will happen for the Tigers, man. The Tigers um are going through a can't get right phase. I don't know what it is that's got them hold up, but before this slump came, it was like they could do no wrong. You know what I'm saying? The stars were aligning for them. They were unstoppable, man. And I think that same team is out there. I don't know what it is, whatever it is. The clouds are just over the lining for them right now, and it's just not in the cards. But that same team that got them to this point is still out there, and they will get it back. But if you trade Tarik Skubal, then you take a step back. You take a step down. Then you're not as great a team. You may be able to get some good players, but you lose one of your biggest assets in an undefeatable pitcher that will get you wins, guaranteed wins when he's out there. And I'm not sure that the players you get in return will give you that. So I don't know, man. I think you just hold the line. I mean, if you can make some moves, I think you should try to, but not with your most valuable player right now.
Whenever me and you talk about trading players, we're always on the opposite sides of the coin. And I think I think the biggest disagreement, or I think the biggest disagreement that me and you share, is the value of a contract. I try to stress how much more valuable a player is when they're under contract. And the closer they are to their contract being up, the less valuable they are. Which is why I've been trying to trade Hendon Hooker for the past 2 years. Which is why I was trying to trade JMO. Well, why I was trying to trade all these players, because if I can trade you a player who has 2-3 years left on their deal, then you are going to give me more than if I try to trade you a player who is going to be up for a contract at the end of the year and they might leave my team at the end of the year. It's just what it is. And so with Tarik Skubal, you're right. You're not going to get anything that's going to make you a better team today if you trade Tarik Skubal. I completely agree with you on that. But I think the Tigers have to look in the mirror and answer the question: what is the goal for this season? You know, I'll tie this into the Lions, not the Pistons. The Pistons are just a young team, and they're trying to, the Pistons are a young team, whatever. But the Lions and the Tigers have both experienced monumental success. Hell, the Lions had the best record. The Tigers had the best record at some point during their season, right? And the Lions are honest. They said the goal is to win the Super Bowl. And I think they've done a good job of putting themselves in position to win the Super Bowl. Now, the Tigers, is the goal to win the World Series this year? Obviously, you want to win the World Series, but is that the goal? Is the goal to win the World Series, or is the goal to be better than we were last year? Because right now, I think they're operating under a premise of they want to be better than they were last year, and next year they want to be better than they were this year. I think they want to continue to incrementally, I don't think that's the word, but increasingly get better every season. Go
I
ahead.
think that I don't think that their goal was to win the World Series at the beginning of the year. I think it morphed into that when they had the best record in the league, and now that they're in this slump, um, I don't I don't know if they're panicking. I don't so much as the fan base is panicking, but I don't know, man. It feels. I heard something on Woodward. I'm not going to take credit for noticing this, but I heard something on Woodward where they were saying that they just not putting the effort out there, man. It's like I wonder if them having a good record and having one of the best records in the league, they just got too comfortable, and that's what the problem is right now. Because
That's definitely the problem right now.
yeah, well, I mean, that's a problem easily fixed, and if you can get players focus back that focus back that they had back in the first half of the season, then your goal should be to win the World Series this year.
It's different because football is one and done, but again, we could draw contrast to the Lions, and the Lions had the best record in the NFL, and that took them all the way to the playoffs, first round bye, and then they came across a team that was, I mean, I'll be honest, I felt like they came to a team that was more hungry than they were, and that team took it to them, and that was it. Now, to your point, the baseball is a long season, and the Tigers are hitting their roadblock at a great time at the All-Star break. So they got half of a season to still get it back together. So I'm not going to argue with you on that. But I have to take into account that baseball is all about averages and statistics. And like I said, water finding this level. And before this season started, you had people with pitchforks and burning stakes hanging around the stadium trying to get rid of Javi Baez. And now, lo and behold, Javi Baez is an all-star. But Javi Baez right now isn't playing at an all-star level. But just take into account the past 3-4 years, he has tortured Tigers fans, and then he came back around. Now, did he come back around and turn that ship around, and now he's just sailing into, greatness? Or did he turn it back around and he gave you everything? He gave you everything he had, and now he's going to kind of find his way back to a happy medium. Now, maybe he won't be the Javi Baez everybody wanted to get rid of, but but at the same breath, I can't guarantee that he's going to be all-star Javi Baez. So he might be somewhere in the middle. You had a third baseman in Zach McKinstry, who nobody's even ever cared for. Zach McKinstry's a fine player, but Zach McKinstry's playing out of his mind. And at the end of the day, Zach McKinstry is Zach McKinstry. So can Zach McKinstry get hot again? Yeah, he could. But you're basing all of this on Zach McKinstry, Javier Baez, a young catcher, and Dylan Dingler. All these guys are gonna catch on fire again, while Riley Green catches on fire. Because to your point, that's what was happening. Everybody on that team was playing at their best level. So it is possible, but that's a hard task to complete. Whereas if you were truly interested in winning the World Series, in my opinion, we'll find out Thursday. They'll answer the question for us on Thursday. If they go out and they trade some of the best prospects that they have in their farm and they bring in a superstar hitter, which is what I think that they need, and they bring in another pitcher, another starting pitcher, and a relief pitcher. If they go out and they go crazy, which they won't. They said it. Reports have been made that they're not going to go out there and go crazy. They would have to go out there and get a player at each position, not each position, but they would have to go out there and get a relief pitcher, a starting pitcher, and a bat to make me feel like they were serious about contending for the World Series this year. And they're just not going to do that. So that just leaves one more year with Tarik Skubal left.
I see I think I see what where the divide is coming, dog. I think I see it, and it's a deep rooted. This may sound like real deep and off the rocker, but I feel like you're describing something. How can I put it? Okay, so I've been on this planet 45 years, and in that time, I think I've come to terms and I've accepted that Detroit isn't the type of place to get superstars. In my 45 years, the only superstars that Detroit has ever had are Barry Sanders and maybe Calvin Johnson. Those are the most elite superstars that I can name that any besides hockey, but Detroit has always been a good player. We've had stars, but I'm talking about superstar, rock star caliber, superstar on the team. This is the man. The whole nation notices this is the man, and everybody acknowledges that this is one of the best guys to ever play this game. Superstars. Detroit doesn't have that, and I think year after year, man, you keep fighting for Detroit to get these players and assimilate like other teams do to go out and get. I'm not gonna say a LeBron, but a player of that caliber, or players of that caliber into the Detroit fold, man. And I just don't think that. I don't think that it's in Detroit's. I haven't seen it happen yet, man. I haven't seen a Detroit team make that move to go out and get a superstar player and become that team to win that championship that way. Every championship we've won have been surrounded by good guys that work together as a team and come together to win a championship. That on other teams it would just be two people, whereas on Detroit team it takes the entire team to do it. This is how Detroit builds their team. I don't know what it is. I don't know why we're that way, but that is Detroit, man. It hasn't happened in the past, and it doesn't look like it's gonna happen anytime in the future.
So you're not wrong. I don't disagree with a lot of what you said. What I will say is two things. One, I'll say the closest we've ever seen Detroit go out there and get a star. I won't say a superstar, but go out there and get a star was Rasheed Wallace. They had their core and they needed something to get over the top, and they went out and got Rasheed Wallace. Now, that would be the equivalent of if the Tigers made big moves at the trade deadline this Thursday. That would be the equivalent to that. But like you said, that's probably not what's going to happen. And so, again, I agree. I'll even take your point and I'll add to it. Barry Sanders, drafted by Detroit. Calvin Johnson, drafted by Detroit. Matthew Stafford, drafted by Detroit. Cade Cunningham, drafted by Detroit. Riley Green, Tarik Skubal, all these guys. Justin Verlander. Miguel Cabrera was a big move, but that was years ago. But all these people have been drafted by Detroit. So, to your point, when I say trade Tarik Skubal, you're looking to the right, and I'm saying go left. I'm not saying trade Tarik Skubal for anybody that we know. I'm not saying trade him for anybody that the average person knows. No, I'm saying I don't want to use the word blow it up, but that's essentially what you would be doing. You would be trading Tarik Skubal to a team, and you will be getting that team's best prospects in their minor league. And you will be getting a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, and a bat from that team in return for Tarik Skubal. And then you would take those farm system players and put them into your system, and you would let them slowly matriculate into the team. And then that would be our homegrown talent. So we didn't trade for a big superstar. We traded for a potential superstar, and we allow him to grow with this team, because otherwise, what good does Tarik Skubal do me next year when I bring back the same team? You know, I add a free agent. Maybe you make a big splash in free agency this offseason. That's possible too. And then you do have the bat, and you do have another starting pitcher, and you can make a run at the World Series. But that's a big gamble, in my opinion. Whereas if you trade for 3 top-tier prospects right now, then you are putting the stars in alignment for you to have these young players that grow up with the team and become the next Detroit homegrown talents.
I don't know. I think the way I'm looking at it right now is it's not the biggest window, but you have a window to win the World Series now, and you're almost there. You're like you can see it, you can touch it, because nobody expected the Tigers to do what they did last year, and nobody definitely expected them to have the success that they had this year. But yet, and still, they're there. So what you're saying is, rather than find the missing piece to get you that extra step to reach it, what you're proposing is step back to move forward maybe 3 or 4 years from now.
Yes, because to your point, that extra step, that extra oomph that the team needs to get over the hump will require them to act outside the character of a Detroit sports team. And I'm not going to operate in a fantasy world where these teams do things outside of a Detroit sports mentality. The furthest I get away from it is telling Brad Holmes to trade this player or that player, because that's another thing. Detroit teams don't make big trades.
But you don't have to. You don't have to go get a superstar, man. All you need to do is go get Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, you need a star, and that's you need a player. You need a player in that lineup that has a bat that's on par or better than Riley Green, which is an all-star. That's an all-star.
Hey, you don't think that I'm talking about, like when I say a star, I'm just talking about another good player, somebody who's better than the player that you have now. You don't need a game breaker. You just need somebody better.
Would you say that Rasheed Wallace was all-star caliber when we got him?
Yes.
I would agree with you. I would say that Rasheed Wallace in a vacuum was just as good as the top player on that team. And that's what I'm advocating for the Tigers to do, is to go out there and get a guy who is just as good as Riley Green. And Riley Green was an all-star. So in order to get an all-star, you would need to give up something heavy from your minor league system. And I don't think that the Tigers are willing to make that move. Now, if you gave me the choice of trading Tarik Skubal or making that move, that's a good question. That's a good question. Now, I would have to think about that. And if you told me the Tigers were willing to give up a couple of minor league prospects in order to get an all-star, to your point, not even an all-star from this year's team, but a guy who's been an all-star maybe once or twice in the past 3 years. That's the type of player that we would need in this lineup. And he would cost you a little bit. He would have a nice price tag on him. And I don't think the Tigers are willing to pay that price tag.
Yeah, I think it boils down to the question that we asked about the Lions. Some people are willing to give up those first round picks for a Super Bowl now. I'm in the camp where I want to keep those first round picks, because I believe that the way they're running the team, if we keep our picks and we keep making picks the way we're making them, we could possibly expand our window, our Super Bowl window, and have years of Super Bowl opportunities instead of just one shot. And I think I'm opposite on the Tigers. Like, the shot is there. I feel like seize that shot now and worry about the future later.
The last thing I'll say is that what you described about the Lions is another deep-seated Detroit sports tradition, and that is we don't go for the championship. We go for longevity. We want to be good, and we want to have good records for the foreseeable future, and we don't want to jeopardize being bad again. And especially with the
Detroit